What if I told you the strongest man in history once lived through a year so painful that almost everything he loved was taken away? The man who changed the world, the man billions love today, once stood alone, heartbroken, rejected, bleeding, and emotionally exhausted. But here is the question nobody talks about. How did Prophet Muhammad survive pain without becoming bitter? Because maybe the reason you overwhelmed today is because nobody ever told you how he survived his darkest season. And maybe, just maybe, his story is exactly what your hearts need right now. Before the pain became unbearable, Prophet Muhammad had already suffered for years. This was not a man living an easy life. Long before Islam spread, he lost his father before birth, then his mother, while he was child, then his grandfather. Loss came early into his life, but around 610 CE, everything changed. In the cave of Hira, he received revelation. The message of Islam began. One God, justice, mercy, truth. But powerful people in Mecca hated this message. Why? Because Islam threatened power. The rich leaders of Quraysh controlled religion, trade, and status, and Islam challenged all of it. Suddenly, slave and rich people stood equal. Truth mattered more than family name. The weak had dignity, women gained rights, and powerful people felt threatened. So they attacked him sallam, not with arguments but with cruelty. They mocked him sallam, called him sallam crazy, a liar, a magician. People insulted him sallam. Some threw dirt on him. Muslims were tortured, some were killed. Then came something even worse, an economic boycott. Between around 616 and 619 CE, Muslims and Prophet ﷺ clan were isolated in a harsh valley. Food became scarce, families suffered, children cried from hunger. Imagine hearing hungry children cry and still crying the weight of leadership, still trying to protect hope, still trusting Allah. But then came the year that nearly broke everything because in one single year, Prophet ﷺ lost the two people who held his world together. Before we continue, you need to understand one thing. Behind every strong person, there is often someone quietly holding them together. For Prophet Muhammad sallallahu that person was Khatija radiallahu ta'ala anha. She was not just his wife, she was his peace, his emotional safety, his comfort, his strongest support when the first revelation threatened him sallallahu. He Sallallahu came home shaking, and Khadija comforted him. She believed in him before anyone else did. She became first believer in Islam when the world adored him Sallallahu. She stood beside him. When the people mocked him Sallallahu, she comforted him. When Islam faced hardship, she spent her wealth helping Muslims survive. For nearly 25 years, she stood beside him, loyal, loving, supportive. Then around 619 CE, she passed away. Just imagine that pain, losing the one person who understood your silence, the one person who believed in you when almost nobody else did. History tells us Prophet Muhammad loved Khadija deeply. Even years later, he still remembered her, still spoke about her, still honored her memory, because real love does not disappear. And suddenly, home felt quieter, emptier, colder, but pain was not finished yet, because only weeks later, another heartbreak arrived. If Khadija protected him emotionally, Abu Talib protected him socially, politically, physically. Abu Talib was his uncle, and in a tribal Arabia, protection meant survival. Even though Abu Talib never publicly accepted Islam, he defended Prophet ﷺ for years. The Quraysh wanted him silenced, many wanted him gone, but Abu Talib stood between them again and again and again. Then, in the same painful year, Abu Talib died, and everything changed because now the Prophet ﷺ stood vulnerable. The Quraysh became harsher, crueler, more dangerous. The insults increased, the pressure increased, the threats increased. Imagine this moment. You lose your wife, then your protector, then the city around you becomes colder. How much pain can one human survive? This year became known as Amul Uzun, the year of sorrow, around 619 CE, and honestly, most people would have broken completely, but then came something that would tasted him Salam even more, a moment so painful that many describe it as one of the hardest days of his life, the journey to Taif. After rejection in Makkah, Prophet Muhammad searched for hope somewhere else. So he traveled to Taif. Maybe some would listen, maybe some would care, maybe some would help. But what happened next was heartbreaking. The leaders rejected him, mocked him, humiliated him, then they turned crowd against him, children followed him, through the streets. People threw stones at that person who only came with hope. He was bleeding, his shoes filled with blood, and eventually he sat alone, in pain, rejected, heartbroken. Now think about this. After years of struggle, after losing his wife, after losing his protector, after endless rejection, his sat there, wounded, alone. This is the moment many people would turn bitter, angry, hopeless. But what Prophet Muhammad do? He turned to Allah and he made one of the most emotional du'as in history. He didn't complain about pain. He spoke honestly to Allah about weakness, loneliness, exhaustion. Yet even then, he still hoped. Then something unbelievable happened. According to authentic narration, the angel came and offered something unimaginable. If Prophet Muhammad wanted, the mountains could crush the people of Taif. Think about that. The people who mocked him, humiliated him, made him bleed, could be destroyed instantly, and nobody would blame him. But he refused. He refused. Why? Because mercy lived inside his heart. He said. He hoped that one day their children would worship Allah. Just pause for a second. The man who had every reason to hate people still prayed for them. The man who was bleeding still chose mercy. The man who suffered still chose hope. And maybe that is the lesson we desperately need today, because when many young people today feel broken too, heartbreak, loneliness, anxiety, feeling lost, failure, betrayal, the feeling that life is becoming too heavy. Maybe you feel tired, maybe you feel forgotten, maybe you feel like life is not moving. But listen carefully. Even Prophet Muhammad had dark seasons. Even he cried. Even he felt pain. Even he experienced loss. Yet he kept moving. Not because life became easy, but because he trusted Allah. Even when life became difficult, the Quran reminds us, indeed, with hardship come easy, not after hardship, with hardship. Meaning, even in pain, Allah is working. Even in confusion, Allah is writing something bigger. Maybe your difficult season is not the end. Maybe this pain is shaping you. Maybe Allah hasn't abandoned you. Maybe, like the Prophet ﷺ, you are being prepared, because the strongest hearts are not the ones that never break, they are the ones that break and still trust Allah. And maybe that is the untold sacrifice of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, not just what he ﷺ lost, but how he ﷺ stayed kind through unbearable pain, how he ﷺ stayed hopeful through heartbreak, how he ﷺ stayed patient when life became heavy. So if your heart feels tired today, remember this. The Prophet survived his darkest year, and by Allah's mercy, you can survive yours too. Subscribe to Improve with Hamad for more Islamic stories that bring faith, healing, and reflection into everyday life.